Vidya ma'am for nominating me and giving this opportunity.
Thank you.
And
Pleasure.
when it's considered with the journey from day one, I should say it was an humongous experience. Gazillion words which were coming from Krish has given us a wonderful experience. I have jotted down all those vocabularies that were right from his mouth, and definitely I'm using them in my classroom scenario, making my children learn them and practicing it consciously. So the journey indeed is very comfortable because I I'm doing the second course with ESOL, and for me, Krish was also there for the IELTS preparatory part, and then concluding and wrapping it up with this TTT. I really feel that I have received an entire package of experience which I would really like to implement with my students both in offline as well as online classes and scenarios. So moving on from day one, where we received a complete information about IELTS, the frequently asked questions which we were not really knowing about, like how the exams are held, how many times it are held, on which days are it being held, and like the assessments based on all these questions, giving the importance of open class discussions and letting us know that IELTS is all about skills, 90% developing the skills and 10% testing of the skills. And we must be putting or giving a basic importance of loop input, that is the reflection of you and how can we modify the activity. So it's the importance of getting of doing micro teaching and the reflection. I do remember he stated the word as it's a vicious circle which is to be completed by proper implementation. And for that, apart from the practices that we do, the major norms that are imperatives for listening, like where to use pencils, where to use pen, and giving the importance of regularly completing the slide. So it was like slipping into the class slowly, and those activities like exit ticket or the games like find someone who, sir has already mentioned never to say it has to be an exercise, rather to enhance those curiosity by mentioning it to be an activity to be done or a game to be done. The first one always to be given as an example where the teacher should be included, and then you give them the time along with the peers, giving it a clear instruction whether it is to be done with peers or as an individual task. So and the like naming the activity, the instruction which should be simple and short, the stages and the demonstration, that is instruction checking questions, ICQs, and their importance in the classroom scenario. It was like never to overpopulate it with words. Instruction should be kept always simple and short. Moving on to the next part is like the important aspect of like the exit ticket every day when it is implemented in the classroom. It gives a clear reflection from each students, like what they learn and what they are going to do once they are back, and the more about things and what you are going to do, find out to enhance the part. And even the scribe is permitted for the IELTS examination was a new information for me. It was all about day one. I should say with the day two in the speaking part, the way the gap filling activity was introduced, and it gave us a very clear clustered information, basic information of IELTS, importance of getting what is the difference between like abstract or detailed or elaborated question paper, like how the activities could be useful, the importance of TTT. 20% is only for teacher talk time and 80% for the STT, which comes as student talk time, and the interaction pattern, which we call it as collaborative learning, OCD. S for individual, S is for peer, SSTSS, that is open class discussion, their importance, how it could be implemented, myth that can be burst, that is not to take flowery vocabulary, the various criterias of speaking, like faking an accent, all those things were made it clear. Apart from that, the usage of corrective techniques, including the criterias, the weaknesses, the corrective technique part which is to be implemented, the steps, giving us an intact practical knowledge, the pragmatic part that could be included in the live scenario, like the ascending pitch, descending pitch, flat pitch, or giving us the differences between rising intonation, falling intonation, flat pitch. So this made my day 2 and 3. Moving on with the writing part, it started with a ranking activity which really intrigued our anxiety towards it. It gave us a clear picture of what IELTS writing exams entails, the problems, and how to deal with them, identifying the writing genres and the skills used in the writing component. And we also practiced and analyzed activities to develop some of these genres and skills. So it was like going for the thematic teaching and avoiding meta language. And as well as the importance of coherence and cohesiveness devices, discourse markers, task achievement, difference between task achievement and task responses, lexical resources, and the grammatical part and accuracy. Apart from that, a detailed graph was given where you categorize activity, academic task 1, academic task 2, general task 1 and 2 based on the nature of task, recommended time, word count requirement, content hours, marking weightage, and formal or informal. So the importance to be like assessment criteria, the important to be included in the speaking and reading part, like passives used for formal tone, conditionals where you go for the imaginary part, uh, reported speech. He also gave an importance of tattletale, which means chugli karna, and zero, first, second, and third conditionals and their importance, the solutions that are given through the power technique, how we have to implement them, and most basically avoid using the word exercise and use the game part, stressing the importance on rote learning. So it was indeed an eye-opener session with the listening, where the predominantly the task was on academic writing, the steps that are included for paragraph writing, because it was like we are not teaching them, but then we are teaching, like it's like the different types of writing that we include, like discursive writing, essay parts, the main ideas, how it could be with the narrative essay, expository essay, discursive essay, descriptive essays, and the problems or the challenges that the students really feel and how to handle them in the classroom. There was an activity type called mutual dictation, which simulated the real life conversation. Background noises are to be included. Yes, there is, but we should teach our students which to listen and categorize them, which is important and which is not important. So they should be able to distinguish and segregate them. So it's like from third day onwards, slip into the no repetition form. First develop and then test. So the activity is useful. So it like how could we adapt it in the classroom scenario. Moving ahead with the IELTS listening form was the importance of pre-listening, during the listening part and the post-listening part, how we divided it into three aspects. So what are the things and how do we include it in our classroom scenarios? Realia, which was a word which was stressed over there. And then moving on to the IELTS reading part, it also entailed the details and the problems, how to deal with them, these key sub skills like skimming, scanning, inferencing, the keywords, practicing and analyzing activities to develop some of these skills. Specifically in academic reading, we strictly have 3 passages. In general reading, we have up to 5. And then, as usual, the micro teaching was done on the travel plans, where we listened to the travel agent. So the game was very good, where we had a general talk and then the audio was placed. So micro teaching steps were introduced, where you give an introduction, then you predict, you state the vocabulary, then you listen for the gist, listen to answer the question, then you answer the question, review the answers, and providing the feedback. That's what make a teaching complete in sense. So again, thereafter, it was like explicitly identifying the sub skills and developing student skills. So brainstorming was a major part over there. Problems are like reading for just inability to separate as like important information or it is to be ignored, lack of exposure to task types, all these things were dependent, like over reliance of detailed reading. Day 7, it was like how to apply with matching headings for a list of individual paragraphs. What are the steps that are to be included, like skimming for general meaning, matching the summary if it is, could be like scanning for specific information. Likewise it was done. So the gap text where match missing parts of the gaps, skimming for general meetings were done. Then what teachers need to know, like 10 points were given. Learner motivation. So our job is to motivate and prompt them rather than content completion. So it was like putting them into a seating position of horseshoe and making them discipline, time, examination, qualities of being an successful exam teacher, and like speed reading, how we could inculcate it with the different activities were question passages which were explicitly given as black same, where you can say it as yes or true. Black, white and different, it is like not given. Giving the importance of HEC, hot error correction, CEC, old error correction, understanding the key consideration and providing feedback on spoken languages, various feedback techniques like how immediate, where you could delay it, where it could be reformulation, and the peer. So practicing the correct strategies through role play, learner teacher observation. And the most important was of like uh, micro teaching is like where you could do with the activity part, vocabulary done, and the academic parts. And the final part is like for the today's sense, it's like when to intervene the spectrum which it's going on. So you have to various specific examples were given where you need to intervene, like ABA and FBA, accuracy based activities and fluency based activities. And it was made clear that focusing on speaking usage without looking on grammar, it's fluency based activities. And doing exercises, it's called as accuracy based activities. So exercises fall under ABA, speaking falls under FBA. So we as a teacher role is what type of activity and when to intervene for giving the constructive feedback. It is all about intention and it is not about intervention. And free communication with the interest of promoting students to speak, we can delay the correction part. And comprehending the question, ignoring the grammar aspect, and feedback is given for immediately as the question is not comprehended and conveyed properly. So follow up feedback, it is to be like without the demonstration. And teaching approach in planning defectively, factors teachers should consider, that is materials and activity, whether it is age appropriate content, authentic materials such as academic articles, literatures, and advanced listening exercise, mirroring the format. Students have varying level of English, so materials should be adaptable. The teacher need to differentiate task and cater to their requirement. And how can the teacher effectively use the class time and self-study time in each case? So these are the factors affecting exam course with the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So easy for teachers to get with intrinsic motivated children, showing them the relevance with real world experience, realia, real life object. So it would be more easy to handle these type of students. And finally, for today, it's all about asynchronous and synchronous learning, their importance, their key differences, how to reflect on how planning may need to change depending on what kind of classroom, and their teaching aspects were clearly done. So teaching and learning processes were clearly identified. So this is the what I could say. And from the PDF part, basically those terms like scaffolding, experiential learning, schema activation, all these terms have given a clear picture of what can be done when a language aspect is being taken into things. So the most enjoyed activities has really given me a better introspection how things could be implemented in the real classroom scenario. And my future plans for updating my skills, waiting is all to get set with the CELTA so that I can enroll into it and improvise my teaching aspect, which could help my students more. Thank you.